It's Nat Tencic with you. Tonight, we are talking about love, dating and social distancing. How to keep dating in the time of Corona. If you are single, if you're non-monogamous, if you're still dating, then what can you do? People are really confused about this one. I've got Dr. Brad Mackay with me, as well as Dr. Nikki Goldstein. She's a sexologist, and talking through how you can sort of keep yourself going in this time. Jess got in touch with us via email. Jess said, I went on a date with a guy last week and the date went really well. There may have been a sneaky pash. He asked me out for dinner this week, but now with the current state of the world and social distancing being so important, I'm questioning whether to say yes. I thought about getting Uber Eats and eating in, but I don't want to insinuate that we'll bang, which I feel can be the vibe when you're having a date at home. I also don't know him overly well, as we met online and we've only had one date. How can I start dating during a pandemic when there are so many things and places that aren't appropriate to be going to right now? Is it even appropriate that I continue to go on dates with him in terms of being cautious of coming into contact with the virus? I want to start here, I guess, Nikki, and bring you in with the reframing what a date at home really means, and this idea that if you're having a date at home, you're going to have to bang.
Well, I think if we go pre-corona pandemic and we're talking about where a lot of dates were, hey, come over, let's watch a movie, or let's Netflix and chill, which seemed to be the modern code for let's Netflix and chill, but something might happen when we Netflix and chill. I actually think there's a bit of confusion with this, because I don't think it should mean that just because you're inviting someone into your home that there necessarily is going to be something sexual that will happen. However, on the other side, I think you also need to consider that when you are inviting somebody over to Netflix and chill or get Uber Eats and sit at home.
Yeah, self-isolation and chill, as they're saying at the moment.
Self-isolation and Netflix. There is a high chance that that person is going to expect something sexual is going to happen. So I think you need to be aware of that if you don't want to be sexual with that person, don't invite them over to your home until maybe you've had a conversation around that. It shouldn't mean that it's a guarantee, but it doesn't mean that that person's not going to expect or try and even be a bit more forceful with that sexual encounter.
Well, I mean, and as Brad has kind of already said, it might not be a good idea to be having sex on a casual basis at all right now.
Well, I think that we do need to put a hold on that. I mean, I think until I'm not the medical doctor, but it all seems a bit risky at the moment. This is why I'm such a fan for masturbation and self-love, and even utilising all this technology to be able to mutually masturbate and explore this side of our lives as well, because I just think there's so much we don't know. We've got to get creative sexually and protect ourselves at the same time.
Absolutely. There are tools that you can use and have a date and have some sexual contact without being in the same room with each other. It is the hookup on Triple J. We're talking about the strange quarry that we're in right now, which is dating and social distancing. Lucy from Newcastle's called in 1300 0555 36. You had somebody trying to get you to come over and hook up. Tell us about it.
So I thought, again, in the same vein there, that maybe, some cheeky sexting might be, a good way to pass the time. But, very quickly was led to frustration on his part and wanting to come over rather than continue. So, I decided to decline. I've been in pretty radical self-isolation for a week, just getting ahead of it all. So that was sort of tricky to negotiate.
Yeah. And Nikki, how might you sort of go about really setting a new standard when it comes to dating here? Because I feel like sexting's kind of what we got right now.
Well, I think that, first of all, we need boundaries, and I think you need to be putting that out there to somebody, that when you are dating them online, that if you are in self-isolation, you're quite strict about that you let them know, so they don't think that they're being led on to something else. But I think this is where we get creative with what sex means, what a date means, what it means to form a connection. Thank God that we are living in the age where we have FaceTime. If you are, or maybe you've just been on a date with someone, or you're wanting to date someone because you've been on an app, there's nothing stopping you from both getting Uber Eats, putting your FaceTime up there like you were at a restaurant, staring at each other, grab a glass of wine and have a bit of fun and pretend that you're on a date. I know it's not ideal, but this is where we do have to get creative. And if we're looking for a connection, then what better way to be exploring, is there something we have in common? Do we have good banter? Rather than just jumping into bed, as we have been doing with the hookup culture, where sex has been a way that we've been dating, and many of us have been losing out on exploring what a real connection is all about. Here is actually the perfect opportunity to be doing that.
Yeah, getting back into like the slow wooing, the courtship sort of thing. Lucy, how have those sexts been keeping you satisfied, I guess? Like, have you been getting much action just online?
Oh, look, I guess so, but I guess, it's more just, I've been single for a while, so, it's occasionally fun to go down that avenue, but I guess, particularly when you're in isolation, it's gets a little lonely, so it doesn't hurt to sort of chat to someone, but it's a little hard when you get that sort of pressure to, make it an in-person thing, and it's really not the time for that, so... I guess it's just an ongoing communication and negotiation thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then take that advice from Nikki. It's so good. There are so many alternatives to actually getting in a room with someone and hooking up, and you can have a lot of fun with lots of different sort of sex toys. And like I've said teledildonics like already so many times this show, but we're going to say it so many more times, teledildonics, and have good fun. So thank you so much for the call, Lucy, and getting in touch. It is the Hookup on Triple J. Tonight we are talking dating and social distancing and how you navigate it. I'm with Dr. Brad Mackay. I'm also with Dr. Nikki Goldstein. Brad, I just want to pull you in on Jess's earlier email when she was talking about the fact that she's just started dating a guy and whether it's appropriate to keep going to see him or going on dates with him, even if they're at home. Like, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so when you were saying that, like, my skin was just starting to crawl, and I think that there may be a bit of a misunderstanding at the moment about the infectivity of the virus. So we certainly know that that the new coronavirus is able to be spread from kissing, from saliva, from coughing on people, breathing, all that sort of stuff. But it's also on bench tops and surfaces as well. And so if you're going to somebody else's house and that's where they live, they've touched all the bench tops, they've touched the taps. If you're walking around and touching things, sitting on the couch, all that is a massive ability for the virus to jump from person to person. So I really wouldn't advise even going around and even sitting on the couch with somebody. If you were going to meet up, I am advising people to go out to like a park and go for a walk, but don't touch. And it is really hard to do. And I think it's hard to get our brains around that. We're needing to have about 2 meters between us, so there's not that chance of the virus spreading from person to person at this point of time. Things will change as things progress. But yeah, like the only way of sort of having somebody around to your house would be like Dexter, like the serial killer, where he puts all of the plastic down. You walk in and he's wearing a hazmat suit. But then that's probably going to be like getting a few alarm bells going when you're entering that apartment space. So I really wouldn't advise it.
I was saying to a listener I was speaking to that it's such a good opportunity for like lots of kink role play. Like if you're into medical stuff, then this is the time, take advantage of it. It is the Hookup on Triple J. You're hearing from Dr. Nikki Goldstein, a sexologist, as well as Dr. Brad Mackay, GP who specialises in sexual health but is telling us a lot of really great, interesting and useful information about coronavirus or COVID-19 at the moment. If you have any questions around dating and coronavirus, get in touch. 0439 75 7555 is the text line, or you can call me 1300 055536. It's the Hookup on Triple J. How you doing this evening? Nat Tencic with you, and tonight we're talking about dating and this old thing called social distancing, where you can't be less than 1.5 meters away from anybody. So it makes it pretty hard to date right now. If you have some questions for our panel tonight, we've got Dr. Brad Mackay, as a GP who specialises in sexual health, as well as sexologist Dr. Nikki Goldstein. 1300 055536. James in Alphington, you've got a question for Brad. Fire away.
Yeah, I think Brad might have just answered my question a bit before the last song. But I don't know. I just recently started seeing someone, and it's in that kind of new exciting phase where we definitely want to be within more than 1.5 meters of each other. I guess we're just wondering, like, how much isolation is the right amount? Like, we both are working from home. Like, is it still okay to kind of go over and see each other?
Yeah, like I think it's a difficult question, and I've sort of been thinking about this a little bit, and we're making things up as we go to a certain degree. But yeah, like if you're not having contact with anyone and they're not really having contact with anyone, and you're deciding that you're sort of going to link your households together, then that may be a certain sort of situation where that would be warranted to have sex and to meet up and hook up. But the issue is, like, that's it. Like, if things go wrong, that's it for the 6 months. So for at least sort of 14 days since the last time hooking up with them. So but then you're also trusting in them as well, and so there's a fair bit of trust that goes on in between households. So it's like, how much isolation is too much isolation? How much is too little? Like, we're wanting people to be quarantined. Like, this is the whole issue. So I think a lot of people think that they're going to get away with it. I think a lot of young people are like, yeah, that's fine. It's for older people. I can do whatever I want. But the whole thing is, like, about a quarter of people who have been diagnosed with it, like over in Italy and over in the USA as well, have sort of been younger people, sort of between 20 and 40. So there's a lot of people getting the virus, and a lot of people, like, they might not die, they might not be on the statistics, the mortality statistics, but a lot of young people are in hospital and they're on ventilators. Their lungs fill up with fluid, and we're having to flood them with oxygen. This is the problem that we're finding, especially at the moment, is that doctors are going, well, yeah, these young people, will sort of like keep them on the ventilators, but anybody over 65, you go home, and if you survive, great. If you don't, we can't help you. The problem that we have is, if the ventilators are all sort of like book up, then we won't be able to save young people as well. So it is really serious, and I think you've got to be thinking twice before sort of breaking down that household quarantine with somebody else. So it's careful, and there is a lot of trust at play with that.
Okay, yeah, great.
Hopefully that answers your question.
It's intense, James. It's really a lot. So as Nikki was sort of saying before, maybe consider some like alternative or like distant date ideas. I mean, long distance relationships are a thing and they totally can work. So yeah, worth trying some of those quarantine friendly video chat things.
And you're not wanting to introduce infection to somebody else who you might be falling in love with, because they could end up in hospital. So this is a reality. And I think it's really difficult for people who are just starting dating, so people in their late teens, mid-teens even, just trying to get their head around such a concept. I'm way past my teens, and I'm having a difficulty getting my head around the concept as well. So it's just an especially difficult time, and we need to be doing things in a completely different way from what we've been doing before.
Yeah, no, thanks. That's great.
Oh, thanks for getting in touch, James. I hope that helps. Anna from Sydney, are you having an issue with one of your housemates? You got a question for Nikki.
Yeah, one of my housemates has her go-to guy that she uses for hookups, and wanted to invite him over. And I sort of said that made me uncomfortable, and given everything going on with the COVID, maybe not, and asked her not to. But then, the next day she texted him anyway, and he left her on red, so luckily he never replied. But she's sort of still wanting to date around and participate in hookup culture. So I was wondering if you have any tips for, I don't know, sitting down and talking with her, or sort of in general dealing with this.
Well, I think this is one of these issues that we are going to see, and everybody has a different level that they are doing when it comes to isolation. I myself are in complete and utter shutdown. Other people I know are still coming in contact with some people. if you are choosing to not have contact with anybody outside of, work or immediate family, and this makes you feel uncomfortable, then I think you have every right to sit down with her and discuss this with her. If she wants to take the risks of engaging in hookup culture when we're all having to distance ourselves from each other, then that has to be her choice, but it shouldn't put you at risk. So I'd say the first thing is try have a nice conversation about it, explain your concerns. You might want to even get some of the hard facts and the medical information to say, listen, this is what's going on. This is what we've been advised to do. I'm really concerned about bringing somebody, someone that you're hooking up with into our home. If she doesn't respect that, then you are going to have to consider your living situation. And I know that's also not an easy situation at the moment, but this is where we need to express our boundaries to other people, whether it is dating or in relationships, casually hooking up, or our friends. And if those boundaries are not respected, then we need to protect ourselves. So it doesn't need to be an aggressive conversation, but you need to have a go at talking to her about it. And if not, consider what you would put in place to look after your own health and well-being.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
I hope that helps you a bit, Anna. Thanks so much for calling in. Elise from Frankston has texted in a question, 0439 757 555. If you do have a question for our panel tonight, she says, my partner of 3 years broke up with me last week due to a change in feelings. It's the worst possible time to be needing to rebound or even to reach out to friends to fill the void. I'm craving human connection and physical touch. What should I do? Nikki, what can Elise do here?
I think this is a difficult time if you're single, but at the same time, this is a fantastic opportunity to work on yourself, because one of the biggest mistakes so many people do is that they end a relationship or they go through a breakup and then it's going straight back out there, potentially with the same stuff that had been going on. In this case, if someone is just saying it was a change in feelings, maybe that's a different scenario, but it's still always really useful to work on ourselves. This is forcing us to slow down a lot more and think about what's important in our lives. Think about how we've been going on our daily routines and how that might want to change. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to have some time to be single and be looking after yourself and engaging in the things that you want to do. Maybe there's books that you want to read. Maybe there's online programs you want to focus on. In terms of craving human touch, this is where we are going to see it be really difficult for a lot of people, because obviously that's the one thing that we can't do unless we're isolated and quarantined with somebody. This is where I think masturbation and self-love is really going to be saving us. It might not be someone else touching you, but there is still a way that you can be sexual and celebrate your sexuality, engage in orgasms, have all this fun with yourself, and that is going to have to be the compromise for now. But we shouldn't necessarily see it as something that is the booby prize. We need to actually be focusing on it more and seeing the benefits and celebrating it for what it is, as something that is different to human touch from another person, but something that is still a privilege that we're able to do right now.
Something really to focus on. And I want to get deeper into masturbation and the ways you can use that in a moment. It is the hookup on Triple J. You're hearing from sexologist Nikki Goldstein, as well as Dr. Brad Mackay, GP, who specialises in sexual health. And we're talking about how to date in the time of social distancing. A lot of your dating and courtship is going to be happening online and on dating apps and the kind of chat that you're doing. Cass from Melbourne asks, what are my opening lines on Hinge meant to be in a pandemic lockdown? What sort of flirting or banter could you maybe suggest here, Nikki, at this really strange and unprecedented time?
Well, I think this is an opportunity maybe to put a bit of humour into it. I think the challenge now with online dating is that we really have to describe who we are and what we're all about. Previous to this, I would be saying to people, put a profile together that shows a little bit about who you are, and if there is something interesting or something that intrigues you in someone else's profile, then go actually meet them and see if there's a connection. Now, we can't do that, so we have to go back a step and think, well, it's really important to be displaying in a profile who we are in order to be able to gauge that connection if you are going to be creatively dating. So I think when you're looking at your pickup lines and those one funny line banters, put some effort into making them entertaining, giving someone a laugh. You've also got to keep in mind that there is a lot of fear and anxiety at the moment because there's so much of the unknown. People are really starting to be affected by that. So also too, making someone laugh, regardless of whether that is the love of your life and works out to be the perfect romance or not, I think it's just a really good thing to be able to be a little bit entertaining, be a little bit funny, or you can even be honest and say something like, wow, it really sucks to be single in a pandemic, doesn't it? Try to get that banter going, because I think it's so important to have that interaction and that connection with people. Even if it doesn't turn out to be romantic, I think it's still really important for our mental health to be having a bit of a laugh and be trying to connect with people whom we've never met before.
And just try to score some toilet paper.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Do you have any toilet paper? Real date for toilet paper.
But don't come over and get it, like leave it at my door and
leave
I'll
it
wait.
at the door in a plastic bag that's been washed and
Yeah, exactly.
Don't deliver coronavirus to your neighbours, please.
It's the Hookup on Triple J. Tonight, we've been talking about dating during a pandemic, something I don't think any of us ever really thought we would be doing. I'm here with Dr. Nikki Goldstein. She's a sexologist, and you can find her at www.drnikkishop.com.au. She has heaps of really great and useful information that you can find there about sex and relationships. And I'm also with sexual health specialist Dr. Brad Mackay. So get the rest of your questions, your thoughts in 0439 75 7555. Someone here says, this virus has come at the worst time. It's the first time I've been single and ready to mingle for 14 years, and now every event is cancelled and you can't get closer than 1.5 meters. Stupid COVID-19. Yeah, it really sucks. No one's pretending that it's a good thing. No one's pretending that it's great, but it's, it's silver linings, as you said, Nikki, and like taking the opportunities that you can right now, like you said, taking some of that time to work on yourself and taking some of that time to like get to know yourself a little bit better. Josh in Langwarren has a question for you, Brad. Wants to know if you shower as soon as you get in the house, I guess when you're seeing somebody and you're going to their place to see them, is that going to be enough for you guys to be safe?
So what have you been doing while you've been over at their house? So if you've been kissing them, then showering probably isn't going to be rinsing that from your mouth and your lungs. So that's not going to be very effective. If you did happen to go over to their house and you sat on opposite sides of the table and you were more than 1.5 meters apart, or 2 meters, as our Prime Minister has said, then you would also have to be really careful that you were like putting all of your clothes through the washing machine and that you weren't touching your face the whole time. So we unconsciously press things, we touch things, and then we touch our face hundreds of times every day. So it is hard to limit that. So some people do wear masks, so not to protect themselves from breathing in the virus, because it will often come around the sides of the mask anyway, but they'll often do it as a reminder not to put their fingers in their mouth or their fingers up their nose. So that's some people are using it as a protection. You can just use anything for that. You don't need to use a medical grade mask if that's what your plan is, because we are wanting the medical grade masks to be available for hospitals and medical staff. So it really depends on what you're up to. If you've had like a walk in the park and you haven't touched hands even, then go home and have a shower because you've been out in the public. Hopefully that sort of answers the question. It's, as I said, it's quite difficult.
Emma from Melbourne has a quick final question for you. Wants to know, how do you know if a guy isn't just ghosting you with the excuse of social isolating? Nikki, one for you, I think.
I think there probably will be people that use this to their advantage. So, you've got to be careful with it, like everything else. If somebody's just gone silent, even though we have this horrible virus that's spreading around and stopping us from seeing each other, we still have phones. So if somebody is not communicating and returning text messages, then ghosting is still ghosting, and the same rules apply. So would you want to waste your time during a pandemic chasing someone that obviously doesn't have respect to at least say, hey, things have changed for me, or I no longer want to pursue something with you. So yes, ghosting is still definitely going to be there, as is with breadcrumbing and most other trends. They'll just take a slightly different form.
And if they're on a ventilator, then they'll wake up after a few weeks and then they might text you back. So
wouldn't you feel
just leave them a
horrible
bit of
if you
time.
thought they were ghosting and then they were actually really sick with coronavirus? So, the chances of that are going to increase, unfortunately, but I'm going to still assume that it's ghosting before it's actually coronavirus.
Yeah, darkest timeline stuff indeed, Brad. Thank you for that.
You're
Gallows humour.
I suppose loneliness is going to be a big issue, and I just wanted to say, this is going to be huge. It's going to impact everyone's mental health, and one option is even deciding to get a pet. There are lots of dogs that need to be adopted, lots of cats that need to be adopted, and they can provide you with amazing company when you are at home in quarantine. So please consider that. There are a lot of animals out there that need your love. Don't have sex with them, but you can still love them. So that's my 2 cents.
Dr. Brad Mackay there. Thank you so much for that sage advice on the hookup on Triple J. Thank you both, and Dr. Nikki Goldstein for being with us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. That's about all we have time for, but I want to leave it on this note. Tom texted in and say, hey, thanks for this program. I was tossing up going for a hookup in the next few days before total lockdown, but you've turned me off it, which is definitely the right choice. 100%. If you missed anything from tonight, we will be putting this in your podcast feed, triplej.net.au to subscribe. You can also listen to the entire episode for a month at triplej.net.au. I've been Nat Tencic. It's a pleasure as always. And stick around because Tim Scheel is up next with something less, a Zen anti-anxiety playlist for this really hectic time. Super ambient, chill music to get you through the rest of the night. So stay safe out there, wash your hands, and I'll catch you next week.